So we've got Isaac the patriarch. He's old and blind, and he's about to give this super important blessing to his oldest son, Esau. You'd think it'd be simple, but with this family, things are never that easy.
Yeah, you're not kidding. This story is anything but simple. It really gets into this whole idea of what blessings meant back then. Like, we're not just talking good luck wishes here. We're talking like transfer of power, inheritance, divine favor, the whole 9 yards. It's like a huge deal, and it has all these repercussions that echo like down through generations.
So it's like high stakes right from the beginning. So we've got Isaac with his fading eyesight, and he calls for Esau. He's like, go out, hunt, get me a meal. I'm going to give you this blessing. I can almost picture it. You know, the tent, the smell of the game, Esau's hunting clothes. It's like a whole ritual.
Totally. And then in the background, we've got Rebekah, Isaac's wife, and the mother of these 2 sons. She's listening to all this, and this is where things go sideways. So she overhears Isaac, and she comes up with this plan.
Yeah, so she calls Jacob the younger son, who's not exactly a rugged outdoorsman like Esau. And she tells him to go get some goats, make a meal, and basically pretend to be his brother to get the blessing. That's pretty wild, right?
Oh yeah, it's a plan built on trickery, and it's had scholars scratching their heads for centuries. Like, what was Rebekah thinking? Was it just that she favored Jacob more? Or maybe she thought she knew something like a prophecy that Jacob was the rightful heir even though he was younger? Some even say she was afraid of Esau and wanted to protect Jacob. The text kind of gives us hints, but it really leaves it open to interpretation.
And what about Jacob? I mean, he doesn't seem too sure about this at first. He's like, Mom, I don't really look like my brother. But Rebekah's not giving up. She's covering him in goatskins, putting him in Esau's clothes, coaching him on what to say. It's like a whole secret mission.
It really is, and it kind of makes you think about the ethics of it all. Like, is Jacob in the right here? Is it ever okay to deceive someone, even if you think it's for a good reason? It's not just an ancient story. You know, it's like human nature stuff that's still relevant today.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about the irony of it all. The blessing that Isaac gives to Jacob, it sets the stage for all this conflict. You know, may nations serve you, be lord over your brothers. It's like foreshadowing, you know. It basically lays out the whole blueprint for these power struggles between the brothers and their descendants.
Exactly. It's like this pivotal moment, and it's loaded with tension. And it raises all these questions, you know, like, is this even a real blessing if it was gotten through lying? Or is it like a corrupted blessing that's just going to lead to more problems?
And then, just when you think it can't get any crazier, Esau shows up. He's back from hunting, and he's got a meal for his dad. I can't even imagine what was going through his mind when he realized what had happened.
I know his reaction's intense, right? Anger, grief, threats of violence. He feels totally cheated by both his brother and his dad. It's interesting, though, because even though Jacob's actions are shady, Esau's not perfect either. Remember, he sold his birthright to Jacob for a bowl of stew. It shows he can be impulsive and maybe doesn't value his inheritance as much, so it's like neither brother is totally innocent.
Yeah, and then Rebekah, always thinking fast, sends Jacob away to her brother Laban. Is she trying to protect him, or is she manipulating things even more?
Good question. It could be both, right? On one hand, she's keeping Jacob safe from Esau, who might want to kill him. But on the other hand, she's pushing him deeper into this web of lies. Like, she's driving a wedge between them. It seems like she's got a mix of motives, you know? Genuine concern, but also playing the game.
And Isaac, I mean, he figures out what happened, and he gives Esau a separate blessing. At first, I thought it was like a consolation prize, you know? Like, oh, well, you missed out on the big one, but here's something.
I can see why you'd say that, but I think there's more to it. What Isaac says to Esau, it talks about hardship, but also freedom. Like, you will live by the sword, but you will break free from oppression. It's almost like it's predicting that Esau will rebel against Jacob's power. Like a little bit of hope in all the disappointment.
This story, it's got everything you know. Sibling rivalry, parents, playing favorites, the weight of tradition, the power of words and actions. It really makes you wonder how things would have gone if Rebekah hadn't gotten involved. Like, what if Isaac had been able to bless Esau like he planned?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? This story, it's like a reminder that even small choices can have huge consequences. It's all about how human choices and fate kind of play out together.
And the women in this story, they're fascinating, Rebekah especially. She's strong-willed, resourceful, she knows what she wants. But she's also willing to lie to get it. What do you make of her?
It's easy to see her as manipulative, but I think it's more complicated than that. She's living in a world where men have all the power, and she's trying to do what she thinks is best for her son. It makes you think about the role of women back then, all the limitations they faced and the lengths they had to go to have any influence.
And then there's that part about the Hittite women. Rebekah's like totally disgusted by the idea of Jacob marrying one of them.
Right, that little detail tells us so much about what was going on culturally. The Hittites, they were neighbors, but they were seen as outsiders. Their customs were different, maybe even threatening to the Israelites. So Rebekah's fear, it shows how important it was to keep their culture and religion pure.
So it's not just a personal thing, it's about protecting their identity as a people.
Exactly. Marrying within the group, it was a way to make sure their traditions and faith continued.
Which makes sense, since the Israelites believed they were God's chosen people.
And it's something that keeps coming up throughout history. The tension between different groups, cultures, religions.
It's amazing how a story this old can still be so relevant today.
It just shows how powerful these stories are. They deal with universal stuff, you know? Love, loss, betrayal, ambition, things that everyone experiences no matter the time or place. They give us a way to understand our own struggles and find meaning in our lives.
This whole conversation has made me think about ambition in a different way. Like, where's the line between going after what you want and compromising your values? Jacob's story, it's like a warning and a challenge at the same time.
Definitely makes you think about the consequences of your choices, not just for you, but for everyone around you. Jacob might have gotten the blessing, but it cost him. His family was torn apart. He had to live in exile. He was constantly worried about his brother. So is worldly success really worth all that?
And what about the idea of a blessing itself? You said it meant something different back then. But what does it mean to be blessed today? Is it about money, spiritual happiness, something else entirely?
That's a question we all have to answer for ourselves. But maybe this story gives us some hints. The blessings we see here, they're about material things like wealth, land, power. But they're also about intangible things like God's favor, purpose, a sense of belonging. It's kind of both.
Yeah, it's really interesting how these old stories still speak to us today. I guess it's because they're about things that are always relevant. Family drama, the crazy things people, that search for meaning. For sure. And this one leaves us with so many questions. We've been talking about the characters and what they did, but you mentioned earlier that blessings were a really big deal back then, like more than just saying good luck. Could you say more about that? What did it actually mean to get a blessing like the one Isaac gave Jacob?
Oh yeah, that's a super important point. To understand what's going on here, you got to get that blessings weren't just words. They were like spiritually powerful, almost like a transfer of God's favor and authority. They believed blessings could shape your destiny, your family line, even whole nations.
Wow, so it's like a mix of spiritual and material benefits then.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so interesting. The blessing Jacob gets, it's got both.
Yeah.
Material stuff like land, power, wealth, and also spiritual stuff like being chosen by God. And it makes you wonder if a blessing that's gotten through trickery is even real. Like, is it tainted because of how it was obtained?
Yeah, that really complicates things.
Yeah.
Jacob gets the blessing, but it comes with a price. His family's messed up, he has to run away, and his brother wants to kill him.
Yeah.
And speaking of Esau, his blessing was pretty different. Is there a way to understand those differences on a deeper level?
You're right to notice that.
Esau's blessing, it's not that it's totally bad.
But it definitely focuses more on struggle and hardship, but also ultimately on being independent. It's like he's going to live a tough life always fighting.
Yeah.
But he'll also be able to break free from anyone trying to control him. Some people think it's foreshadowing the Edomites, Esau's descendants, and their relationship with the Israelites was never easy.
So it's like both blessings have good and bad parts.
But they fit each brother's personality and what's supposed to happen to them. I think that's a great way to put it. It shows how blessings weren't just one-size-fits-all pronouncements. They were personal, tied to each person's story. It also reminds us that even when people make bad choices, there might be a bigger plan. Like, God's working things out even if we mess up.
That makes me think about divine providence.
Yeah.
The idea that God's behind the scenes guiding everything. Do you think that's what's going on in this story?
That's a question people have been arguing about forever. Some people say it's a clear example of God being in control. Like, he can even use messed up people like Jacob and Rebekah to do what he wants. Others say it's more of a warning. Like, hey, even if you get what you want through sin and lies, there will be consequences.
It's almost like the story wants us to wrestle with that question. Like, is it free will or is it God's plan?
Exactly. And I think that's one reason why this story is still so fascinating. It doesn't give us easy answers or tell us who's right and who's wrong. It makes us think critically about faith and human nature and figure out our own meaning in the story.
There's one more thing I want to go back to. We talked a bit about the Hittite women and how Rebekah reacted to them. What's the significance of that detail?
That little detail, it actually tells us a lot about the anxieties of the time. You see, the Hittites, they were neighbors, but they were also outsiders. Different beliefs, different customs. Rebekah was afraid Jacob would marry a Hittite woman. It shows how important it was to keep their lineage pure, culturally and religiously.
So it's not just a personal preference. It's about protecting their identity as a people.
Right, they wanted to make sure their traditions and faith continued. Marrying within the group was the way to do that.
Which makes sense since they believed they were God's chosen people. But it also introduces this concept of the other, people who are seen as different or even a threat.
Absolutely. The Hittite women in this story, they symbolize that otherness. And we see this theme throughout history, tension between different groups, cultures, religions.
Wow, it's amazing how this story from so long ago still applies today.
That's the power of these narratives. They deal with universal human experiences. Love, loss, betrayal, ambition. They go beyond time and culture. And they give us a way to understand our own struggles and search for meaning.
This whole conversation has really changed how I think about ambition. It's made me wonder, where do you draw the line between going after what you want and sticking to your values? Jacob's story, it's like a cautionary tale and a challenge, all at the same time.
It really makes you think about the consequences of your choices. Not just for yourself, but for the people you love. Jacob might have gotten what he wanted, but at what cost? His family broken, he had to run away, always looking over his shoulder. So it begs the question, is worldly success worth all that pain?
What about the idea of a blessing itself? You said it had a different meaning back then, but what does it mean to be blessed today? Is it about being rich, being spiritually fulfilled, something else?
That's the question, isn't it? And I think it's something each person has to figure out for themselves, but maybe this story can help us. The blessings we see here, they're about tangible stuff, like prosperity, land power. But they're also about things you can't see or touch. God's favor, purpose, feeling like you belong. It's like it's both, and maybe it's something more too.
It's like there's so many layers to the whole idea of blessings. It's not just about material stuff. It's like being connected to something bigger, you know?
Right. And even blessings that come from God, they're not always easy. They often come with challenges and tough decisions. Look at Jacob, even after he got the blessing. His life was full of hardship and conflict. He had to deal with the consequences of his actions.
So it's not like a fairy tale ending. Just because you get a blessing doesn't mean life's going to be perfect.
No, not at all. Actually, it seems like the struggles are part of the blessing. It's by going through the hard stuff, facing our flaws, making things right. That's when the real power of a blessing shows up. It's about growing, changing, and finding forgiveness.
Which makes me think about Jacob and Esau. I mean, after all the deception and the years apart, they eventually meet again. Is that like a message of forgiveness and redemption?
Yeah, that's a really important point. They do reconcile. It might be complicated, but it shows that even the worst relationships can heal. It suggests that blessings, even if they're gotten in a bad way, can lead to harmony and a deeper understanding of ourselves and others.
So the blessing kind of becomes like a catalyst for growth, both for the person who gets it and for the whole family.
I like that way of putting it. It's not like a finish line, it's a process of transformation.
This has been such a fascinating conversation. I had no idea the story of Jacob and Esau was so deep. It's not just about two brothers fighting or a stolen inheritance. It makes you think about human nature, what it means to be blessed, and the power of forgiveness.
I'm glad you feel that way. These old stories, they have a way of making us rethink our own lives, our values, the choices we make. They offer wisdom that never gets old. It's like a reminder that even in the darkest times, there's always hope for change and a new beginning.
So to everyone listening, think about what stands out to you the most in this story. Does it change how you think about family ambition, what it means to be blessed? Maybe it makes you think about your own relationships, choices, the path you're on. Whatever it is, keep thinking, keep asking questions, keep the conversation going. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the story of Jacob, Esau, and the stolen blessing.